the Around the NFL podcast, starring the old Zeuser and Dan Hanzus, also Gregg and Marc.
The check's in the mail, money. Welcome to another edition of Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus in a virtual room filled with some heroes, Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler. It's in the books, the 2022 NFL Draft. Hope season is at an all-time high. Your team is better. Maybe. But right now, certainly. It's easy to talk yourself into it. Greggy, how did you feel about a draft that was very unlike past drafts? In fact, we got into round 3 with only one quarterback off the board, one in the first 67 picks. And that, to me, when you look back in 5 years beyond the players that are going to jump out here, is how different this was from other drafts that are QB mad.
Right. Like, I thought of that E.J. Manuel draft, but then you have quarterbacks coming in the second round, guys who ended up being like longtime starters. And this one to go deep into the third round, I think it had like a lot of day 2 juice, a lot of receivers we knew, the quarterbacks falling, like, again, kind of continuing Thursday's theme that like this draft didn't have a lot of great storylines going into it. It kind of delivered for the first couple of days. And then day 3 is always going to be just punching the clock until I can see you guys.
Yeah, day 3 is a chore, but it's interesting to me that like there was this initial reaction to the quarterbacks, months ago, that the class is weak, and because there's such a long build up until the actual process of the draft, it swung back around where actually people are being too tough on this QB class. Like, there are some players in here that can really play. I mean, statistically, if you draft a quarterback outside of round 1, I mean, it's pretty grim. And there's a couple of teams now that are, in theory, clinging to the concept that some of these guys in the later rounds could be their QBs of the future. History tells us that probably won't be the case.
It was sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, because there's not many teams with needs. I think that's maybe where we got a little lost. It was
a good year to not have a great QB class in the sense that there weren't 12 teams, dying for someone.
So we'll get into, some of those quarterbacks that did, because even that 2013 class that you mentioned, Gregg, I believe 12 quarterbacks came off the board. I think this draft, it was only 6 or 7 in that range.
Oh, yeah.
Including Mr. Irrelevant, which, by the way, Marc, it's still here. I was wondering if this would be the year that moniker would fade away, but it's still here.
It feels in an era of, everyone must be celebrated and everyone is important, that it would have slipped away. But I actually thought of you when that pick was made, because for years you were the designated Mr. Irrelevant post, and I think you even followed it up covering the ceremony and other side shows.
All you wanted to do? No, I never went to the parade.
Well, I don't mean that you went to it, but you penned an article, from your cube.
Those early years at Radio City Music Hall with this company, you would have to wait until 2:56, and then the old man, he would shuffle out, and then they'd do the whole ceremony, and then it would be write the 200-word banger on the guy that probably won't make it out of the second week of training camp. Hopefully this is different for Brock Purdy, quarterback out of Iowa State, who was round 7, pick 262. DJ called him competitive. But let's talk about the other 261 picks. Not all of them, of course, but we'll also do it in our own ATN way, which is, who are the winners and losers, players, teams, what have you, connected to the draft. We also have to check in on our Go Get My Lunch props, where I think I did as well as my New York Jets this year, but I have not checked yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And also, of course, this is the final.
It's a Dan Hanzus shout out.
Thank you, Paul Rudd. This is the final episode with Ricky Hollywood behind the glass. Ricky, are you ready? This is it.
I'm not. I'm really sad. Our former boss, Marc Brady, just sent me a text about 3 minutes ago and said, have a great final show. Be present in the moment. We are all grateful for you.
Oh, he's really a great man, Marc Brady.
Oh, my gosh.
And we are grateful for you. And we'll talk about that at the bottom of the show. But yes, our last go around with Ricky. Let's make it count.
Burying me in the F block. All right, let's go.
Well, we gave you a little back end of the A block tease there.
Okay, cool.
Heading into the bump. And now you're buried in the Fs.
Yeah,
But
okay,
it's okay.
There's a subset of people that are only listening for the Erica update, and it keeps
Right.
them here
Right.
through or at least
But for the
fast
rest of the
forward to
people,
end.
like, we're going to get to Trey McBride analysis first. So
Yeah,
just
perfect.
keep priorities in order.
Let's do a round of winners because, like I said, this is an optimistic time on the NFL calendar. So let's not get negative right away. Let's be positive. Gregg, who's a big winner out of the 2022 NFL draft?
The Bills come to mind, partly because they took the guy in James Cook in the second round that I thought the NFL was overthinking almost more than any player that I happened to look at closely. Because when I saw James Cook, who's Dalvin Cook's brother, and everyone was like, well, he's like 85% of Dalvin Cook, which, by the way, like, that sounds awesome. When he moves...
I bet he doesn't agree with that, but yeah, that's the
Right.
outsider convention, yeah.
Plus, he's like literally 85% because he's 25. He's like 20 pounds less, and so that's like the concern. He's a smaller, but I think people were saying he was kind of the poor man's guy. But I watch him in the way he moves. Like, everyone's overthinking it. He moves exactly like Dalvin Cook. He moves like an NFL running back. He can move in tight spaces, the lateral quickness, and he's awesome on third down. And the fact that they didn't take Breece Hall in the first round, and they got a guy at the end of the second round in James Cook that I think is going to really improve Josh Allen's completion percentage. They had two of the lowest ranked running backs by PFF on passing downs in the NFL last year in Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. And so it's such a huge upgrade there. I like Kyrie Elam. I trust Sean McDermott to develop cornerbacks. They haven't taken one that high since they did it with Tre'Davious White back in the first round in 2017 in Sean McDermott's first draft. So just those like 1-2 pieces, to me, like, those are going to go right into the starting lineup. It's the team that I think's the Super Bowl favorite. And when I saw that Cook pick, I was just like, he's going to be underrated in fantasy drafts. Even if people are kind of on him, he's the guy that I'm going to want if I'm in those drafts, because I think he's going to get 65, 70 catches.
I think it's bad news for Zach Moss, who was a favorite of some draftniks. Duke Johnson's on the roster too. But we were people, doing their mocks and all that stuff. We were right that the Bills needed a running back. But Dan, I think you ultimately won sandwiches on the fact that they would not go there in round one as they didn't, but they got their guy later on.
And it makes sense too, because like we're saying, there's very few organizations that are run better right now than the Bills. So trust your scouting, trust the process. Fill out that defense and that secondary a little bit, and then go get Cook, because you've read the draft the right way. You're just really in good hands right now if you're a Bills fan. You're also in good hands, by the way, another winner since this is adjacent to the Bills. Kyle Brandt, friend of the show, who NFL Network good guy. Kyle has no excuse being such a good guy, because because he's so talented and handsome and everything. He could have been a jerk, but instead he's like a really nice guy. So when I see him doing well and doing things like he did at the draft this weekend, I'm like, all right, he did it.
Dan, Gregg, all the guys.
Oh, thanks, Kyle. Let's check out him announcing the Bills' third-round pick.
Good evening, Las Vegas. Good evening, my brothers and sisters on the NFL Network. And good evening, Western New York. I find it perfect that the Bills are drafting in this city of luck, of chance, because you all know, and I know, the only thing in this world that can stop Josh Allen is the flip of a coin. So Mafia, mount up! And every other fan base, listen up! Chiefs fans, Raiders fans, Bengals fans, in my hands, I hold the most important pick of this entire round, because this pick is the only pick who will win the Super Bowl in his rookie year. With the 89th pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Super Bowl 57 champion Buffalo Bills select my man, Terrell Bernard, linebacker, Baylor.
Should be noted that Kyle is wearing Zubaz during that, Bill Zubaz, and he takes a big chomp out of a buffalo wing as he does a Ric Flair woo and heads off the stage. Sometimes if you're a man of a certain age or woman who watched wrestling growing up in the 80s and 90s, Kyle Brandt's one of those people.
Yeah. Can I tell you a really quick little Kyle Brandt thing that... Sure. I didn't really know him that when this happened, but we had one of our media summits was probably 4 years ago in June or something. And you're sitting in these conference rooms all day long. And I moved to the back of the conference room at one point just to stand up, and I was by myself. And I saw Kyle Brandt from like long range away look back and see that I was there. And he got up just to, in the quiet while someone was giving some absurd speech, to come back and talk to me for just 2 or 3 minutes. And it was like, you don't have to do that. Like, no one needs to do
Greg,
that.
all the guys.
That Dan and Gregg and all the guys thing, I forgive him that, because I don't even think
Great
he was trying to be
Marc.
a jerk.
He's a good dude. And
I
awesome.
forgot. I mean, plus now the Bills are like the type of team that gets popped from Kyle Brandt. Like, can you imagine that 6 years ago? Like, they were not that team. I forgot that while I was doing my Bills rundown, they also took the punt god, who I was kind of going to make whoever took the punt god a winner. And it's
Right.
like, these are like luxury picks you can make. You can take your third down running back in the second round, and then you got the punt god, Matt Ariza. Seriously, like, that is going to improve their team, I think, more than people would expect, to suddenly go from a pretty average punting situation or poor to the punt god.
And we'll get into that a little bit later, because guys that use their feet to make money in the NFL to kick oblong balls really stood out in this draft as well. How about a winner from you, Marc Sessler?
For me, I mean, I'm going to hang off New York for a minute, but for both teams, I think there's a lot to get to there. But it's the Eagles. I thought, number one, you pull off the trade for A.J. Brown, which completely changes what you can do on offense. You add him to last year's draft pick, Devonta Smith, who was fascinating. And you've got Quez Watkins. Jalen Reagor might be out the door there, but they have legit wide receiver weaponry and power now. And A.J. Brown is a dominant game changer that somehow, Howie Roseman pulls off these stunners, and he got this thing done. You didn't hear them connected over and over. It just happened. And then they go get Jordan Davis, who, I may not be I don't think Jordan Davis fits in a lot of defenses in 2022, but I do think he'll fit well with the Eagles. I mean, it's like kind of who they are and how they run that show, and he's a good fit for them. And then at 83, they went and got Nakobe Dean, which was like, that guy slid. The value there was great. So I think if you're the Eagles, and that's becoming a bit of a nasty division, because the Giants seem like they finally have real direction. They kind of remind me of the Bills for obvious reasons. You got the Cowboys, but the Eagles are not a team that's going to fade. I think they're growing in power, and it's going to be real interesting to see how the read and what Jalen Hurts can accomplish in that offense with that new weapon in A.J. Brown.
I totally agree with you. That was going to be my first winner as well. They're well run, and you're seeing that with Jalen Hurts. He's on a 4-year, $6 million contract. So they are a team that absolutely should be and have been now aggressive to build up around Hurts as long as they see him as the future. And they seem to, at least right now, because they invest in a number one wide receiver in a very smart trade to get an A.J. Brown. Then give him the $100 million contract extension because of the quarterback situation. You don't target quarterbacks in this draft, so you kind of clear the runway here for Hurts. And in general, and I don't know if we hit on this, or maybe we did, but in passing on Thursday night from Vegas. But we know the Eagles' track record with wide receivers and drafting. Nelson Aguilar in 2015, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Reagor. So go do it this way. Bring in a guy that you know is a stud. They did a better job last year with Devonta Smith. You got Dallas Goedert there. And I just believe that this team is set up very well. Nakobe Dean, now we're hearing things about the chest injury, and teams were scared by the medical that think he's going to need surgery to miss the year. All right, but you also hear that he's off the charts in terms of his measurables and his explosiveness on the field, and he could be a real difference maker. So that's well worth the chance there. So
they said he'll play. They said they expect him.
Yeah.
They disagreed.
He said he's fully healthy. He expects to be ready for minicamp, and his quote was, "Things that were not true cost me a lot of money." So there's two sides to the story. His is that he's healthy and ready to make an impact. And when you look at the NFC East, I think you're right about the Giants. They finally had something to be happy about. That was a great first round of this draft, but they're a couple years away. The Cowboys, you never know with the Cowboys, obviously.
Didn't have a good offseason overall.
Yeah, Washington is kind of a mess. And then you have the Eagles, who seem like they're going to be a very buzzy, trendy pick to win the NFC East, and I buy into it. I think they're going to be right there.
And one little thing with the Eagles, because one of the reasons that Doug Peterson parted ways with them, there was that ownership basically said, we're in a rebuild, and Doug Peterson didn't want that direction necessarily, and they wanted someone that did.
Pissed off, Angelo.
He was pissed off, and he's in a new place, but that wasn't 5 years ago. Like some teams, when you rebuild, it's like welcome to year 13 of the 77-year rebuilding plan.
They made the playoffs.
Right. Their rebuild is they were a low-level wild card team, and this year they're very much a hot property.
And they also think ahead really well. The second-round pick, Cam Jurgens, is basically a guy for Jason Kelce to mentor for a year. Kelce mentioned he's a character and he's a student of the game, that he thought Jurgens was one of his favorite center prospects to come out in 3 to 5 years. He's kind of like a wannabe Kelce. And so, okay, you have this idea that money and their analytics, and they're as analytically driven as any team, tells them to get huge men. Like they take linemen, and I know Jurgens is small for a center.
The old Marc Sessler sentiment. Okay.
Right,
yes, absolutely.
Like defensive linemen like Jordan Davis, but also offensive linemen. And then they also got an interesting quarterback prospect as an undrafted free agent, MJD's guy, Carson Strong, which at least some people liked as the 5th or 6th quarterback in this class. He ended up going undrafted because people believe he has a degenerative knee, which is obviously a concern. But they took a couple big swings, and maybe he ends up being like a long-term backup there.
I'll throw out another winner here, and Graver, jump on here because you could use this. The Titans were not a winner in night one, but you know what? I thought they were a winner after 2 and 3. Not overall. I still think on balance it's not a great, but I'm just saying they were a winner after Thursday night, okay? Because the Malik Willis move was something that we talked about heading into Thursday that made a lot of sense for the Titans to hang back a little bit and then get that quarterback that they could develop behind the scenes and eventually replace Ryan Tannehill, who's sneaky getting up there in age. He's only got 2 years left on his deal. He is who he is at this point. And yet I don't think many Titans fans, maybe Graver, you disagree or whatever, but thought that guy would be Malik Willis because we thought that player would probably be taken by this point, and we know how the quarterback situation played out in this draft. So now you got Malik Willis in the building. Tannehill is still going to be the starter, but you have someone there that can potentially juice the offense and the organization as a whole if he takes hold as a prospect. So you could then spin that. Okay, so they had a smart move there. And then you look at the A.J. Brown move, and you're like, okay, were they being a little cheap, or did they just not set up the team the right way? Maybe. But in the pick that they used, Burks, to replace A.J. Brown, trust your ability to develop him, and then you're going to have that flexibility financially down the line to strike in a different way. So I thought the Malik Willis addition was a way that salvaged the draft weekend in some ways for the Titans. Your thoughts, Graver?
Yeah, I'm stoked for Malik Willis. I think he has so much upside. And with the A.J. Brown stuff, it's weird because when you heard John Robinson and Mike Vrabel talk about the situation, it's like they just seemed so far apart. And there's a lot going around. Like he said, she said, A.J. Brown wanted this much. The agents wanted the Titans to offer this much.
A.J. said he would have done it for $22 a year, and the Titans offered $16 a year. And
there's a lot
of far apart.
But there's a lot of like weird math going on with that because some of those averages include the $4 million he was set to make this year, and some of them don't. And like apparently the agent asked the Titans for $80 million guaranteed and then cut off communication. And like I don't blame A.J. Brown for any of this. It's all the agents trying to get the most for their guy and whatever. But it is what it is. A.J. Brown's gone. Malik Willis, though, I mean, it's potentially a new era of Titans football. And they actually ended up drafting a running back, a wide receiver, obviously Treylon Burks, a tight end from Maryland, and a tackle. Like by 2023, 2024, when Derrick Henry's moved on and Ryan Tannehill's moved on and Taylor Lewan's moved on, if all these picks hit, which is a huge, huge if, obviously, in the draft, the Titans could have like grabbed huge core pieces for an offense moving forward.
That's kind of my point, that like the headline for this draft, and it should be because it was one of the biggest headlines period, is that another superstar wide receiver was on the move, but there were some signs of optimism to come out of Nashville as well.
I had winners, losers, and I put the Titans in a push category because I think Malik Willis is about as spicy as a pick as they could have had coming off the A.J. Brown thing. But Treylon Burks, you're hoping he can be some version of A.J. Brown. You're hoping these other pieces are there, but they're suddenly a team in transition because we're looking beyond Derrick Henry. We're looking beyond Ryan Tannehill. So it's a mystery land. I mean, it's not a sure thing.
Right, and they only believe in Malik Willis so much. He was their 4th pick. He was their 2nd, 3rd round pick.
They did trade up for him.
Yeah, they traded up at that point once he was still there at 86. But they valued Nicholas Petit-Frere, the tackle from Ohio State, which sounds like a name that Marc made up, just like in general. They valued him a lot higher. They took him 16 spots before, so it was partly circumstance. I love Willis's upside. It was interesting. I felt really bad for him and for Ritter. You really saw on the coverage on Friday night that these guys are used as content, essentially, by us, by the TV networks over the last 3 months, and that's like part of the price of playing quarterback. But really, they were used in a way that was probably unfair to those two guys. Like they have a lot on their shoulders that like Nicholas Petit-Frere, who went 16 picks above them and probably got to enjoy that night in a different way, don't have. And they were disappointed. I mean, Ritter looked determined, like he was part happy, part pissed. And Malik Willis, you could tell the emotional journey he must have been on watching that whole draft pick by pick, where at pick number 2, he thought he had a chance to go, maybe that like an outside chance, and he was waiting all the way to 86. And I don't think anyone's a bad guy for it, but it's just part of the deal, right?
I don't buy into the take there personally.
What's the take?
Let's feel bad for the quarterbacks that got used.
I'm not saying I feel bad. I'm saying they go through a lot more ultimately, and they're carrying a lot of the coverage in a way that other players
but it goes the other way too.
And that's
is my
the
point.
bad side of it.
The quarterback also gets disproportionate amount of the praise when things go well, and maybe they got used by the draft industrial complex, and then ultimately were not valued on the early part of the draft. But also, that being speculated and being talked about, maybe that could put some players on the radar of a team that weren't studying a player as much when the process plays out. I think it cuts both ways.
Imagine if they were your buddies. I mean, they're just like humans. They're going through a lot that's unique, and I don't think it quite existed 20 years ago. Like,
but Aaron Rodgers is like you saw the look on his face. We've seen that 1,000 times.
Right, and I just think in 2022 with social media and everything, it's a little different getting dropped to the 3rd round, where you're like you basically were an afterthought. And I also disagree with the idea that this was a good situation for Willis, which I've seen said a lot. Like, Titans, good organization, he's not going to have to play right away. I get that, but it's like the offensive line is terrible. They just lost A.J. Brown. If I was coming up with a big losers list, like Tannehill was a loser this weekend because he lost A.J. Brown, and they still got a lot of needs there. So maybe it works out for Willis. I like the coaching staff and the organization, but it's not like he has an easy situation.
That's also
Can I tell you one thing I'm not buying at all?
Yeah.
Is this idea that Ryan Tannehill's going to, quietly tutor and nestle Malik Willis all season. If they get out to a 1-3 start and his play is chaotic, Malik Willis is the kind of person that, again, the media and everyone in Nashville is going to say, we need to see him now, because if their offensive line is giving Ryan Tannehill fits, and he's mobile, but Malik Willis is going to be a dazzling guy on the ground who can escape trouble, I think there's going to be an outcry for him the minute they hit stormy waters.
Interesting take, Greg. Quarterback is the most high-profile position in the most popular sport in the country, and there's just a lot that goes with being a quarterback. Even in high school, the big man on campus, like there's pressure and there's scrutiny that position invites more than any other position in any realm outside of golf or tennis or single sports like that. It's just. It's a tough gig, and you got to be tough. You have to be mentally tough to survive.
All I'm saying is, how could you not feel just like the humanity? Because here's a kid from
Liberty
who he had to transfer just to go to Liberty because basically his college career wasn't working out, and normally it'd be this joyous thing, and you just feel like the weight of what the last few months are on him.
Well, no one predicted he would dip as far as he did. I get what Greg is saying, that it's not like
just saying, like, none of those other guys are leading NFL Network day after day. If you don't think that could have impact like a 21-year-old kid's just sort of outlook, and it's just a lot. That's all.
It didn't help. Remember Geno Smith going to round 2, and was he in like his little turtleneck and looked furious?
So. Geno is the best quarterback out of that 2013 class, though. Right now, I mean, what a class.
That's what you're clinging to at this point, Greg. You're highly desperate.
Mike
think
Glennon's
Gino
like, hey,
wore-
what about me? I had that run in Tampa. I was like, nope, sorry, Mike.
I think
What kind of
Gino
quarterback
wore-
marches out in a turtleneck? By the way, I think that was a problem right
I
out
don't
of
know
the
if
gate.
it was a turtleneck. It might have
Well, it
been
was
a
something like
classy
that.
sweater of some kind,
Yeah.
as I recall. He had to be convinced to come back. He wasn't even going to come back for day 2. I remember that. We covered that. All right.
That kind of proves Gregg's
Willis
point.
wasn't
by the way.
there. Yeah, I don't think. Where was Will? It was confusing. He was there. He was in Vegas somewhere, but I don't think he was at the draft still.
All right. Was that your loser, Gregg? Does that count as a loser, or what?
No,
was
let's
that?
go another. Let's do winner. I mean, it is.
You want to do another winner?
Let's do another
ahead.
winner. I'll do a quick one, which is just like Kyler Murray getting his boy Marquise Brown. We learned more about that story that Marquise Brown had asked for the trade way back in February. These guys are close, not just teammates, but close friends. We're hoping that would happen. I just think like it kind of shows who's wearing the pants there. Like they went and got Kyler Murray's friend basically to like make the situation better. I just think like, okay, you had this stance and everything's calmed down and they're kind of doing what they can to make you happy. And oh, by the way, with our first pick, we're also going to take Trey McBride, tight end out of Colorado State, who probably has like the most physical gifts of any of the tight ends in this class. So it's just kind of like, okay, we're going to try to help out Kyler as much as we can and make him feel
certainly
comfortable.
changed, it seemed, in that when we were doing the report on when that tweet storm came out.
Something happened
at Arizona, and all of a sudden he's like, I'm not going anywhere until I'm winning a ring in Arizona. And then the GM, I believe, came out with a statement. So, yeah, some fences were mended, but at the same time, it still lingers because the contract has not been rectified yet. At least on the public side of things, we don't know. Maybe there's been some positive advancements behind the scenes.
Yeah, it was just a little quickie one.
All right, how about another one, Marc?
I would go with the Steelers. Now, I think there's a big if here because it requires Kenny Pickett to be more than just an adequate patch to the next quarterback. But if he works, it seems like he's someone that he'll start week 1 if he's going to win the battle. And in theory, if it works, it's a great story because obviously, he's practicing where the Steelers practiced through his whole college career. I think there was probably there's narrative around, they passed on Dan Marino generations ago. They didn't this time. But on top of that, Kevin Colbert, I think, we've known that he is among all the GMs, for all these guys that cannot hit wide receivers, he keeps hitting on wide receivers. And to get George Pickens at number 52, and then they got Calvin Austin, who had a 4.32 40 at the combine. They've restocked at that position, and they're a different offense right now if these things work. But it's something about the Steelers. It's like they've had 3 coaches. They're so consistent. They've had like 4 quarterbacks in the last 400 years. Like maybe Pickett, if he flies, the Steelers are out of the mud.
We're in lockstep here, Sessler, because that was going to be my next winner as well. I had Kenny Pickett specifically as a winner because he's joining a Tiffany franchise. Like you said, he's been practicing in the same facility in his college years for years. That team knows him like nobody else knows him. And then you have the situation with that depth chart and Mitch Trubisky, and we all know what Mitch Trubisky is at this point. I think there's a lot of smoke about Mitch Trubisky maybe having this like second chapter to his career where he takes off, but I think the more likely scenario is he's going to struggle to win this camp job. And you know what? Mike Tomlin kind of backed up that thought process when they asked him about it.
Yeah, he certainly has a chance, and I agree with that sentiment of his readiness from a professional perspective. We felt he came ready-made in those ways, and hopefully that's an asset to him in terms of being able to compete and being ready if performance dictates.
They like him. It's very clear that this, and obviously they like him. I mean, they drafted him in the first round, but I think they think very highly of him in a way that's going to lead to a legitimate chance to win this job right out the gate.
I totally agree. That interview convinced me more than anything. I mean, he's about to turn 24, and I think that's part of the reason they took him is they see him as a guy who can play for them so that they can go win games this year. It really sounded like that in that interview. And then George Pickens was the guy to me that it was like Colbert playing all his hits. I'm going to wait for my quarterback to fall to me. I'm going to take the talented receiver with off-field issues that falls too far or weird questions. Like Chase Claypool wasn't an off-field guy, but people just almost didn't know what to do with him because of a position. And you take him late in the second. Mike Wallace, Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders was a clean prospect as a third-round pick, but like all these guys in the second and third round, and he's nailed them. And when I watched them all, I thought Pickens was the most talented receiver in this class. And DJ told me the off-field stuff with his attitude and stuff completely took him off a lot of teams' boards, and that was like a huge question. But this is where, if you have a guy like Mike Tomlin and you run a great organization, maybe you're counting on that to help develop this guy, because he looks like a number one. I would be afraid if I was AFC North cornerbacks against him.
Yeah, watch him be the most productive wide receiver out of any of these guys. They just had their track record is so proven, but of course, for that to happen, these things are all in tandem. They need to figure out the quarterback situation. We shall see if the kid can play the guitar. Another winner. Listen, I'll try not to dwell on it because everyone else has been talking about it, and you don't need to hear me talking about the Jets all the time. But the Jets had a big draft, and Zach Wilson was the big winner. And if you want to look at there's a lot of reasons why Sam Darnold hasn't been a successful pro, and a lot of that is on him, and he's going to maybe get one last chance to prove himself this year. Maybe he doesn't as a starter. But one of the big reasons he was set back was bad coaching and a bad supporting cast and a major failure by Big Mac, Mike McCagnon, to build up an offense around him in his early years. And they've done the opposite with Zach Wilson. We know they went and got Vera Tucker with him in the draft class last year, which he profiles as a potential Pro Bowl guard. And then, they go and get a big-time wide receiver potentially here at Ohio State, Wilson. Then you come back and you trade up in the second round, and you get the guy that everyone thinks has a chance to be the best running back in this class, Breece Hall. So I just think that when you look at Breece Hall, when you get the chance to look at what they have now in their starting offense, it's pretty good. You're going to have Michael Carter, who was a very promising running back last year, teamed with Hall in the backfield, running a scheme, a Shanahan scheme that is going to play to their strengths. They're going to be a good duo if they stay healthy. Wilson, Elijah Moore, who's under the radar a little bit, is a guy I think could have a huge breakout season in year two if he stays healthy. Corey Davis, who's their big body on the outside. They completely redid their tight end room with Uzama, and they also drafted another tight end in day 3. The offensive line is in good shape. It's all there, and I think there's going to be some built-in pressure. Once again, the quarterback is always going to be the light shining on the quarterback more than any other player. And I think what's going to happen here is the Jets now have built a core on offense for sure, and maybe on defense now where they need results after 11 years outside the playoffs. And I think if Wilson doesn't take that step, I could see them acting aggressively to move on next year. I think they're going to be looking at this situation as if he fails this year, they're going to say, oh, we're a quarterback away from being a playoff team again. So he needs to step up. I feel good about it. I'm wearing a Zach Wilson is good t-shirt right now, so that should tell you that I'm part of a movement underground amongst Jets Nation, but he's got to do it. He's got to take advantage of what is a really nice bounty for him right now.
I like that you're doing the manifestation here.
Shirt.
You're manifesting the concept that Zach Wilson can play. And we were talking about that as we were walking through the Bellagio after our round 1 show. That
Today, Saturday is a full moon, Mark, and you know about this. Like, it's a full, real big new moon. So today, if you do want to manifest anything, today's the day, Saturday.
You're turning into a crazy old cat lady, and I
know, it's horrible.
I'm with you. Like, I'm trying to imagine during the time that we've done this show, because there hasn't been really, you have to go back to Rex Ryan's opening press conference where a 48-hour period had such a positive effect on the concept of what the Jets are, because now you're hearing like competent, organized, finding value, cohesiveness, and like the roster is changing. I mean, it's been all those things have been attached to other teams, every other team in other sports and in the NFL other than the New York Jets.
They've had their free agency moments. There was certainly excitement about Darnold coming into year 2, but this is the best looking roster as a whole. I think the defense is actually ahead of the offense, Dan, and maybe that's just because we haven't seen it with the quarterback. To me, the defense is rock solid. Like, I love that defensive line. You add in Johnson, who to me feels like a safe, if nothing else, pick. They said they would have taken him at 10 if Wilson wasn't there. You have Carl Lawson coming back, Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Rankins, John Franklin Myers. Like, that is a good group. Really, there's not huge holes on this roster other than quarterback, and you got to see the O-line actually do it. Zach Wilson's just got to prove it, but I'm with you. I think they had an awesome week.
Becton's got to prove it too.
Right.
Wilson and Becton, they made an, and I know they took a lineman later in the draft, but if Mekhi Becton reports to the team, which he hasn't done yet, and is in shape and is motivated, that changes that offensive line. If he doesn't, that could set up Zach Wilson for struggles as well. So I'll just leave it at this. Two things. One, when I left the hotel at the Bellagio yesterday, and I had this like ratty gym hat, this Jets hat in my bag, and I put it on, and then I was walking through the lobby, and I was walking through the lobby with pride. All the fan bases around, I was like in their jerseys and everything, and I was like, yeah, I'm wearing this Jets hat. And yeah, you could mock me. I don't care. This is when the Jets win their Super Bowl. Fine, whatever. But people don't understand there's been so many years where the Jets have also dropped the ball here in this month, in this draft, in this setting, and it didn't happen this year. In fact, the number 2 headline on ESPN.com earlier this afternoon read, New York Jets brass downplays unfamiliar praise for NFL draft class. So it's a weird feeling, it's a fun feeling, and it's one where you're really excited about what can happen here. So much hinges on whether Zach Wilson is good.
Because he was an especially bad rookie quarterback, which we dance around a little bit, but it was one of the worst rookie quarterback seasons of the last decade. It wasn't like mid-level rookie struggling.
I would look at the games after he came back from his injury. He ended the season fairly well, but it was really bad before
one
that.
of his worst games. But I also think I don't know. I don't know what I think. I think you have a lot to be excited about.
Cut to Mekhi Becton on an easy chair with a giant bag of Cool Ranch Doritos weighing 512 pounds.
I know what I wanted to ask you, Dan, though. What was the answer? What was the answer to Sauce Gardner's question to you, which was off mic, unfortunately?
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about that.
As he left the set, he had an important question for you.
He kind of started walking away after our pleasant conversation with him, and he stopped, and he turned and looked at me, but he's like, so who's the bigger Jets fan, you or Rich? Rich Eisen. It is a good question. I don't know I know Rich is legit. I know Rich is a native New Yorker. He grew up on Long Island, and he's certainly well known within NFL Network as being a Jets supporter. It would be a fun trivia game.
You're as big a fan for one team as in terms of especially riding that wave as just about anyone I know, along with Marc.
I'm certainly more passionate than Eisen.
You guys are in lockstep, though, Dan. He had a very passionate speech on NFL Network that had a lot of the table legs that you've just mentioned. So
I like when you I wanted you to say it because whenever you've repeated Sauce Gardner's question, you make him sound like a Sopranos extra for some reason. He's already got the Jersey accent. I like it.
All right. Let's do a loser. We got to keep it real here. Gregg, go ahead.
I got a couple. I'm going to pick the meaner one just because.
Marc's going to do mine anyway, so it'll be fine. But
I kind of have
a.
I feel like one of ours is we probably share one, so I'll skip him. I'm going to go with the Jaguars. I know it's lame, but I feel like they got the number 1 overall pick in the wrong year. After getting in the right year, it was a generational prospect.
Crimea River.
Trevor Lawrence, but you got in the wrong year. You got a guy that's you could make the argument 15 different guys could have been a better prospect than Trayvon Walker pretty easily. And it felt like an organization I just don't give the benefit of the doubt. And I don't buy into the whole idea that it's healthy to have disagreements when you have a first-year head coach and a GM who's fired about 5 different coaches and an owner with a history. It just keeps seeming like this is what bad organizations do. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. And then I didn't like the process of trading back into the first round and giving up a decent amount to get a 23-year-old off-ball linebacker. Again, it's who knows? Devin Lloyd might be amazing. It comes down to being right about these players. But the Jaguars aren't right too often. And most teams, when they really believe in something, they believe too much in their ability to scout better than other teams, and it's just hard to do that. So giving up that much for that low octane of a position, when you had a guy like Myles Jack, for instance, and you just gave $15 million a year to a guy, Devondre Campbell, playing a similar position. So I didn't love it, considering they had the one pick.
Well, I get it. I get that they were just in a tough spot. Like you're saying, this was a bad year to have the first pick. It was reported after Thursday night that the phone never rang. It never happened. No team ever wanted to be in that pick because it was just the way it was set up. The one case you can make, and this is obviously what they're banking on here, is there was so much talk about smoke about Aiden Hutchinson and whether he was a guy that was a very productive college player and will be a productive pro, but he's not going to be special. Like, he's a guy that, whatever this means, I don't even know what this means, but it got said like he's already peaked. He's going into his first year in professional football, but I guess I understand that he's not going to grow as a player. They're saying Trayvon Walker, the understanding is, yes, it's a bit more of a dart throw, but if he hits, he could be a superstar. And they're in Vegas and they played the hand that they were dealt, and they're going in big.
Yeah, I meant to say Foye Oluokun, by the way. I said Devondre Campbell as the ex-Falcons linebacker that they signed.
They went with Balky's dream scenario. Like, that's a total Balky cutout pick right there. And like, you've got to hope that the Jaguars have the right GM. I'm not.
They just did so much this offseason, and yet I don't feel like it's that good of a situation around Lawrence. Like, compare them to the Jets. They're both rebuilding. The Jaguars have had a lot of picks over the last couple of years. They would have liked to have more picks this year. I like the situation a lot better around Zach Wilson, for instance, than I do around.
They spent like $1 billion on draft picks over the last 10 years. I mean, it's just absurd.
I agree that Wilson is set up better right now, but I haven't changed my feeling. I think Lawrence is still a huge talent here, and it's going to be interesting to see with him in a professional environment. Like, he might take a big leap this year, and everything changes for them. All right, how about a loser? And Marc, I'll let you know if it was the one I was going to say.
Well, I would go Justin Fields. It's not because we just talked about Zach Wilson. We don't know that Zach Wilson can do it, but they're certainly putting him in the best possible position. And you see that in general with rookie quarterbacks. When you get that guy, there should be the push to do everything. The Bears are overtly, taking a couple steps back to rebuild. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But the problem is you're losing, time on Justin Fields' rookie contract. And I'm not sure with what they did in this draft that we're really in a scenario where we're going to have him make a big step forward based on what they've done in free agency, which was really quiet. Their first two picks today were a cornerback in Kyler Gordon, a safety in Jaquan Brisker. That's fine. I mean, you have a defensive head coach, which I also find slightly problematic when you're attached to the face of the franchise in Justin Fields. They took a wideout in Velus Jones in the third round out of Tennessee. But in general, if you look at from week 17 until now, very little has happened to really put Justin Fields in a great position for year two. Because we'll say, we just think that Trevor Lawrence can do it. We have a lot of faith that Zach Wilson is good, but you don't necessarily feel that around Justin Fields in the situation he's been put in. It's kind of like he's on an island with an offense that didn't grow and a lot of pieces missing on both sides of the ball, heading into a rebuild. And it's like, this is not where you want a rookie quarterback to be, because you could be in year 3 or 4 and not really have an idea of what he is.
It's a good one, Marc.
It is. And an inexperienced coaching staff. Luke Getsy is his offensive coordinator. This is why you don't waste the rookie year on a coaching staff you're probably going to fire either. Because now it feels like, you're right, this feels like they're just starting the rebuild, and it's his second year.
Right. So we'll see if he could find a way to.
Was that yours, Dan?
Progress.
I hope
It wasn't.
Truly, okay,
it wasn't.
well,
I hadn't even.
Finally,
The Bears. I remember in the same episode last year, the Bears were a winner. And I can almost remember exactly what either I said, I don't know who one of us said. It was just like the Bears, finally, there's some juice in that building now with Justin Fields there and something to get excited about finally. But you're right, by keeping Nagy, that kind of, it just threw some gunk into the machine. And then you finally sweep him out and all his cronies. And now you're starting over and rebuilding the entire roster. And meanwhile, year 2 is probably going to be a big time uphill climb. And then all of a sudden he's in year 3 and you're like, okay, are we making progress now? It does actually, it feels a little bit like the Darnold path in New York, where they had First, they had Bowles there at the end, and they got rid of him after a year, and then hired the wrong guy in Gase, and all of a sudden it was just like this whole thing is a mess.
Yeah, I
so
do like
hopefully
that Matt
that's
Nagy,
not where things are for Chicago.
I do like that Matt Nagy has cronies surrounding him. That's
well, I
just
was
looked at that.
with them that one night at the combine.
You're right.
I looked at their depth chart, and I'm gonna be getting that projected starter series underway at some point.
Oh,
I don't know. Them in Atlanta might be the two worst rosters right now, I think, in the league.
I think cronies. It's an informal noun, often used in a derogatory sense, but the actual translation or definition is a close friend or companion.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
I was
how
going
we're,
more
how,
towards that.
Right, like political henchmen, surrounding like an evil governor or something. Yeah.
All right. See, now I don't even want to do this one. You know why?
Take the obvious one. Obvious one. I feel like
I don't want to do this one because I thought Gregg was not going to let me have my moment with the Jets and come in with a bunch of negativity.
Oh, I know where
and
you're
take
going.
some digs.
Oh.
And now I got to talk about this, the loser being the Patriots' mystique factor.
I know, but Dan, it's your last chance to take a dig at Erica before on the Patriots front.
It is. So I just want you to mark. Greg,
this is pretty common on draft day. I would say they've had a lot of drafts like this.
I just want you to know this is not me. This is not a an attack on you on any level. It's just more let's discuss some NFL news.
It never is. It never is.
So we know what happened. We know what happened with. Always remember that Erica's final first-round pick with this show was Cole Strange, the 29th pick, guard out of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And in general, with the Pats, this is their last 6 first-round picks, for the record. Dominique Easley, Malcolm Brown, Isaiah Wynn.
Who?
Sony Michel.
Who?
N'Keal Harry. And Mac Jones. That group, there's just one Pro Bowl appearance.
Mac Daddy.
One Pro Bowl appearance of that group. It was Mac Jones.
He did get about
last
120 yards to win the Super Bowl from Sony Michel. Never take that away from them.
Very true.
So they have not drafted well at the top in several years now, but now Tom Brady's gone, so all this stuff is more vital to hit on these drafts. So Strange is taken, and now cut to Rams house. And I don't know what's going on with the Rams this offseason. I understand. I like their offseason. I like that the roster feels like it's in good place, and I think they're, obviously still being run in a sound manner. But I think the party is like going on over there.
Yeah, they're taking lap after lap. You're right.
It does not seem like things have slowed down since the victory parade, and when Sean McVay and Les Snead showed up for their end of round 1 late Thursday night press conference. It wasn't even that late in L.A. They were feeling no pain, reported. Listen, I've felt no pain enough in my life.
I feel like you could tell they were.
You just know. Sometimes you just know. And this is how they found out in real time that Cole Strange, picked by many to be a mid-round pick, was off the board to the Pats in round 1.
Example, you really
just went.
Oh my, UT Chattanooga to the first round. Hey, where is?
How about that? And we wasted our time watching him, thinking he'd be at 104, maybe.
Listen to the gales of laughter.
You know what? Hubris is a dangerous thing, and I felt a little element of hubris there.
Totally. I feel that, Mark. And you know what else I feel? I feel Sean McVay waking up in the morning. We've all had those mornings too after a night of drinking and carousing.
Not me.
And he, not you, of course. And he was probably helped along by some PR people. It's like, you better get out in front of this, bro, and kiss the ring. Kiss the 6 rings, or what does Belichick say? He's got 9 rings or whatever. Kiss all the rings. And this is what McVay said 24 hours later with a headache, most likely.
Yeah, what I would add to that is I think, I wish that it wouldn't have gotten misunderstood. It was more of a reflection of I was actually giving Les some, a hard time because when we started watching him, I think we both were in agreement. There's no way he'd be there because we like the player so much. And if there's anybody that has more respect for Coach Belichick, what he's done, than I do, I'd like to see him, because I have tremendous respect for this profession, for the players that play at this level, and I would never want it to get misunderstood for Cole Strange or the Patriots organization that anything but respect for the player. That was my reaction, and any misunderstanding was my fault for the way that I probably communicated that, but that I do appreciate you saying that, Les.
And finally, does anybody have any Advil?
He called him too. He called Belichick personally. That is wild.
End of phone call. I wonder what Bill
it.
said. Oh, don't worry about it. Grumble, grumble, grumble. And then was plotting his death.
He's like, fuck you.
Don't you remember
13 to 3. I mean, that wasn't even like the low. That wasn't the only moment they got made fun of for either. The rest of their draft was kind of wild. They took Tyquan Thornton pretty high, which I was excited because they never draft anyone fast, and he's literally a track star. Like one of the fastest track guys in the country. He ran a 4.26 40. The last time they did that, though, was Bethel Johnson in the second round, like a track star in the second round. That didn't work. And then they finally in the third round take the really undersized, versatile cornerback that I was talking about, that they have to take every single year. So,
Ricky, before you're out the door here, I do want your State of the Union address on the Patriots. How do you feel about them in 2022 and going forward?
I'm really excited. Really, really excited. No, me and Justin were talking at Rock Bottom at a Chili's in the Vegas airport as we were leaving Vegas. It's literally like we spend all of our time putting all of our stock into these mock drafters who just think they know, which they do. But then when our team that we like ride or die for, who like spends the time with these players and makes their decisions based on it, picks them, we like discount what they have to say. So I'm going to, I want to eat a little humble pie. Yeah, the Patriots are not where they were, but I'm going to look down at my 6 rings and trust Bill.
Well, you don't have any of them.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I
you
do.
didn't do shit.
We, as the Patriots organization.
Pie
oh, Erica, she says we when she talks about her team. Oh my God.
That's
You're not going to buy one of those strange 69 jerseys. He wears 69. So
yeah, no, I already have
strange.
one.
It's just kinda...
But I didn't wear it on the shirt on the podcast. I have Mac Daddy is good that I'm wearing right now.
Ricky, so Justin, and you were raining on all other mock drafters. I know Justin fared very well. Has he just
he was
slipped into the
top
Josh
5 in
Norris
the country?
position?
Yeah, he thinks he's hot.
Well, Justin's a disruptor.
Yeah.
Justin now is going to be the guy that is going to notch double-digit mocks every single year and then talk down on the comp. He's like Elon Musk. He's Elon Musk of the mock draft community.
Yeah, he thinks he's like, big doings.
Yeah, I bet his significant other was more impressed with his exploits than Josh Norris's significant other appeared to be when we asked Josh Norris about getting 16 a year ago. You can tell that Graver, he's being adored, I would imagine. Why am I wait?
Whoa, he's on fire. That's fair.
Nice job, Justin. Justin, can you jump out a second? I just have to ask Erica something privately. So do you think he's going to be good at this, or?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. No, are you kidding me? He's going to be phenomenal. He's too good. It's going to make me look bad, and I have a lot of regrets. I shouldn't have trained him to the point that I did, because now, but next time I'm on the beach in Mexico during free agency and he's texting me with a bunch of help for ATN that week, I'm not going to answer.
No, you're not going to do it.
I like that you tilted this, that you're such a good teacher. That's what it
exactly
wasn't his natural skills.
And also, if you could have done it again, you would have been what Marc believes Ryan Tannehill will be from Malik Willis. Which is just a terrible person that will rub dirt in his eyes at his first training camp.
Exactly.
What did Ryan Tannehill do to deserve that, Marc, by the way?
Yeah,
Why do you
he
just
actually
assume he's going to be a dick?
When did I say that?
A great mentor.
I didn't say that would be the case. I just said that if Ryan Tannehill struggled heavily out of the gate, that the fans, with someone like Malik Willis...
I thought there was another comment. I'm sorry.
No. I think Ryan Tannehill seems like a nice individual.
Am I crazy, Greg? Didn't Marc say something about that?
There seemed like some illusion that he wasn't really going to be helping out Malik Willis.
That's what
I thought.
Well, I didn't intend that. I was more saying that the fans are going to be all over him if he struggles.
Didn't you say something about rubbing dirt in his eyes in his first training camp practice?
And his bottom?
No, I did not.
They are very different, too.
I did not say about rubbing dirt into his bottom, Erica.
You did.
Marc, did I blank out for 3 minutes of this show?
Don't F with me. This is my last day, and you don't want to know what I'm going to do with your microphone track.
Oh, my gosh.
You can do whatever you want.
You can.
I'll never hear the episode.
It's just gonna. You don't listen. It's gonna be I'm gonna isolate just you, being rub dirt on his bottom, rub dirt on his bottom, rub dirt on his bottom.
By the way, the Patriots drafted 2 more running backs. They now have 9 running backs.
I know.
sure
Maybe
that'll
one
work
of them
out.
will hit,
And they
though.
drafted the next Brian Hoyer, Bailey Zapke. They did have a great draft last year, so that's giving me.
All right, I want to throw out a winner. Nice job, kickers and punters. I predicted this one when what happened with McPherson in Cincinnati. When they take a 5th-round pick on Evan McPherless, and then he basically helped put Cincinnati into the Super Bowl, you just had a feeling that the rest of the league was going to take notice and get a little more aggressive in the kicking game. And that's what's happened. We saw, what do we have here? We have some good data on this. First of all, the Browns drafted former LSU kicker Cade York. Let's get in the Kickers Club. Why not? It's never too early. The Browns drafted former LSU kicker Cade York in the 4th round with a 124th overall pick on Saturday. The highest a kicker has gone in the draft since 2016. So the Browns are one of those teams like, we're so good, we'll just take a kicker at this point.
Remember who that 2016 pick was?
Roberto Aguayo, the
Bingo.
Bucks taken in the 2nd round off that team by a year later, and makes sense for the Browns, who had a lot of issues with their kicking last year. Gregg, you also mentioned. Let's move on now. Let's move out of the kicker club. Let's head on over to the Punters Punch Bowl Mixer, which is a much more toned down affair.
Sure.
It'll give you some pings of nostalgia if you're a boomer. And they, as Gregg mentioned, drafted a man named Punt God, San Diego State punter Matt Ariza. And that's pretty cool. He won the Ray Guy Award. And the last time a kicker and 2 punters were taken in the first 4 rounds of the draft, 1993. So everybody grab a partner, head out to the dance floor, fall in love under the full moon. Turn it up in my headphones, Ricky. There you go. But no, the kicker game, finally, there's an understanding that don't ignore it. Everyone's afraid. That's the whole thing.
I forgot the Browns were even in this draft.
Yeah, they were largely invisible.
It's good to lay low still for the Brownies.
Yeah, just like come back in 2023 or something.
Speaking of feet, Ricky, what about your feet?
Yeah, my feet were probably the biggest loser.
Because you had the stems out.
Yeah.
You had the stems out, looking good in the dress on Thursday night, but you paid the price.
Yeah, I decided that I could just walk instead of taking the golf cart ride. And I was like, oh, no, I can do it. But I was so far through the casino where I realized like I should probably bring a change of shoes that it would take too long to go back. So I walked the 1.3 miles around everything to get to the set that we had, and I was not in good shape. I'm still not in good shape, to the point where there's like a 2-inch gash in my big toe right now, limping a little bit. It's the puppies are barking.
Did you think it was okay or inappropriate when Marc first saw you on Thursday night and said, take a look at her gams?
I thought it was perfect.
Okay. Good.
I thought it was to be serious. I thought it was very brave of you to make that walk, Erica.
Thank you. Yeah, no, everyone was really great. Schneider was asking
real hero.
vendors
so brave
if they sold like flip flops or anything like that too. So yeah, thank you to
I'm
you
just
guys
glad
though.
that you got
could
to
have
say
walked
the
in
phrase
socks and given me your shoes or something, but it's cool. It's fine.
You should have done the drunk girl move.
And walked barefoot.
Just pull the heels and just start walking on gravel and little glass chunks.
Yeah. Wouldn't be the
Pebbles.
first time.
I'm just glad you got the
what
phrase 2-inch gash into your final show.
You want a pic of my feet? You got to pay for it, Gregg.
Gregg will pay happily.
All right, let's do a couple more. We have a couple more things to get to. So you have any speed round?
I'll throw out a winner. I meant to almost first. I think they might have the best draft, the Chiefs. I'm big on the whole like the Chiefs aren't going anywhere corner this year, just because they're the Chiefs and they're Patrick Mahomes.
What do you mean they're not going anywhere? Like
Like the Bills and the Chiefs to me
Oh,
are
they'll remain
easily
relevant.
the
Yes,
two
gotcha.
favorites in the AFC, and I'm saying the Bills are, but the Chiefs I would put 1B until proven otherwise, and I don't think they've had that bad an offseason at all, and I think they had a great draft. I think the two guys we talked about that they took in the first round, Trent McDuffie, the cornerback, and Karlaftis, the defensive end. Karlaftis PFF liked as a top 10 player. Like he's the type of guy who wins his pass rush all the time, kind of like a Clowney or a Davenport. Maybe he's not going to get a ton of sacks, but he's just stronger than the guy across from him, and he gets a lot of pressure at pick 30. That's nice for them. He's going to start right away. McDuffie's going to start for them right away. And then Sky Moore, really, I think, can help to replenish some of the targets that Tyreek had. You have Valdez-Scantling going deep, but he's not going to be a main factor. Moore's the guy that's going to be getting open quickly on the route, can make plays after the catch. I really liked him. A lot of people thought he might be a first-round pick. He seems like a rookie that, even though he got taken 55, like I bet his fantasy average draft position will be pretty close in the end to some of those top guys like Garrett Wilson, that were drafted. Even though Moore was way down there, I think he's going to have all the opportunity in the world. Just felt like they plugged some nice holes, and I just feel like we're going to get a replenished Chiefs here this next year.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, they still have Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid is still at the controls, and I think they're maybe just in a little bit of transition now that he has the $500 million contract. I know it's not actually $500 million, but they have to just change how they do business. And somebody made this point, and I wish I could give him credit for it, but I'll share it here, which is one of the things that defined Brady's greatness was once he became Brady and became a high-paid, decorated star, what separates the great quarterbacks is they could win with less, and guys that aren't, players can win when they're on the rookie deal, quarterbacks, and then the teams can load up for them and you could win a Super Bowl. But like the true great QBs can do it when there are some more restraints, in large part because of your own salary, because you're a superstar quarterback. That's where the Chiefs and Mahomes, the world they enter now. I tend to believe, second half of the AFC Championship aside, that he could be one of those guys. But that's where we are in his career arc.
I think
I
another
just
loser.
read too much PFF because their pick at 106, Leo Chanel too, was their top 40 player. Like the Chiefs kind of just did the run down the PFF big board and pick their guys. So maybe I just read too much PFF.
I mean, is there a bigger loser in continuing fashion of the entire offseason than Baker Mayfield? He comes out of this not a Panther, and a lot of people thought he'd get traded there on Saturday. And then there's Ian Rappaport saying that Seattle's interest in Baker Mayfield is, in quotes, lukewarm at best. I mean, they seem at this point content to potentially roll into the season with Drew Lock the way that Pete Carroll talked about Drew Lock.
He said
and
Geno Smith is in the lead.
No, I mean, I know, but both of them, but neither one of them should be. I understand, Greg, your fetish for Geno Smith, but
no,
in
it's
theory,
surprising we've gotten to this point.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just, I think also maybe, if you're the Browns, you're a loser attached to that whole situation. You're going to have to pay his contract or part of it to get him out the door. And this might be the kind of thing where you have to wait till training camp when a starter goes down and you try to sell Baker at the highest possible value, which still won't be high.
Yeah, I think Baker, I'm with you that so much has been said at this point, but nobody needs a fresh start more in our league than Baker Mayfield right now, and he still doesn't have it now, and now we're outside the draft, and now you have to wonder, our team's waiting for him to be cut, and that's messy as well then, and you wonder who might enter the fray if all of a sudden he doesn't have that salary attached to him in the same way.
No one wants him. The teams are dogging him publicly. The Panthers said once they took Matt Corral that they're not interested in Baker Mayfield. They said it out loud.
Malik Willis was on the board when the Seahawks picked at 41, and they took a running back. And I just feel like, the Seahawks, they're fooling themselves if they think that this is going to work with Drew Lock and Geno. Baker Mayfield just makes too much sense. Both teams, he needs a fresh start. He can go to a Seattle team that's going to be a run-first operation where there's not going to be a ton of pressure on him to be this guy that's throwing the ball constantly. And then Seattle can have potentially a professional playing quarterback, no offense, Greg, or a guy that's had more success than the current options on the roster. Just makes so much sense for that to be the spot. But if it's not, if it's true that they're not really interested, I mean, where does Baker go? Where does he even end up?
I mean, it's definitely true because they could have had him. They could have him for like a 7th round pick right now, and nobody wanted him. And for Ian to put that out, and he said this thing that, well, they like to throw horizontally and vertically. So he's not a great system feed. It was just like a strange thing, and I didn't talk to Ian about this, but I did have a different sparrow. It's like, I think it's come down to Baker's personality. I think you were talking about having a professional. I think there's concerns that the adult in the room comment that got out. I think other teams are more concerned about that maybe than just the fact that he's not a great
I guess I meant
starter.
more as someone who's produced and put numbers and put
Absolutely.
a playoff win on tape and that. But yeah, certainly he's definitely scared some teams off with elements of his personality.
Well, have you seen the last 4 games of the Geno Smith 2015?
I can't believe we're talking about this right now.
Do you know who's
I
bummed?
cannot believe it.
Is Teddy Bridgewater doesn't get any shine from Rosenthal anymore. It's all
wait till
Geno all the time.
Wait till September when Tua misses a game or two, and then suddenly Teddy takes over. Don't worry.
Yeah, but you also don't want to be part of that contingent of NFL cognoscenti that dogs Tua. So you're kind of caught. You're caught in between.
I mean, I'm not afraid of
Tough
Tua.
situation, Greg.
I'm not afraid of Tua and on.
Tua is one of those atomic guys. You guys like don't be critical of Tua. You'll be told that you're stupid. Certain guys.
I feel like I'm middle tier on Tua. He's all right.
All right. If we're gonna move on, unless anyone has one more that they feel strongly.
Just too quickly, I think the Seahawks had a great draft, and I think Matt Ryan was a winner. Even though the Seahawks didn't take Malik Willis, just the athleticism they took. Charles Cross, Mafe, I think profiles really well. Kenneth Walker seems like a really exciting running back. I know it's high for a running back, but he seems really exciting. Like all over the place. They took Kobe Bryant, the guy the cornerback from Cincinnati we were talking about the other day. I just like their whole draft, like super athletes. And I think Matt Ryan, they not only did they not take a quarterback, but their first 2 picks they took pass catchers. Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, who's kind of a vertical guy.
That was Spice Rack's other guy right there.
That's right.
Don't keep some
tight end
bullets
too.
in the chamber here, Rosenthal. We got around the AFC in 48 minutes and around the NFC in 48 minutes coming up this week.
I just thought those were more winners.
Did you see what Jim Irsay said, that he thinks that Matt Ryan can play up to 4 more years? I don't know if I'm seeing that when I watch the tape.
I don't know if I'm seeing that either. But he probably just wants not a revolving door every offseason.
I would imagine you're right about that. Let's check in with the great Nick Fortier. Oh, what a weapon he is. Running GoGetMyLunch.org. We did our draft picks, our draft props, and let's quickly spin through them. Marc, empty-handed in terms of predictions. You had during the draft DK Metcalf is traded, but Deebo Samuel and A.J. Brown aren't. Dan and Gregg took you up on that. Let's see, what else? Saints make 3 first-round selections. I think they stayed at 2.
They did trade up, but they stayed at 2.
Draftable player goes missing during the draft. Sorry to report, Marc, that nobody fell into any level of peril or concern.
But we don't know that. We don't know that for sure.
Not yet.
But
right now, Nick has it as a loss.
Right.
If something comes out in the next, how much window do you want to give him on this one, Gregg? 72 hours?
No, it said during the draft.
Yeah, I'm willing to take the L on that. I'm not really
family might be
lobbying
keeping it quiet. Like, let's say,
sure.
Here we've kidnapped an offensive guard out of Rutgers. Don't say anything to the media, or he gets it, and that's why we haven't heard yet. You know what I mean?
Unless Marc's gonna log on to tacosporfavor.com and send me something in the next day or two. I think we can just put it as an L, and in the horrible instance that someone is missing in the end, we can flip it at that point.
Right. And Nick is ultimately the judge here. He's got it as an L. So you're 3-8 for the draft. Marc, Gregg, you finished 4-5. You had Trayvon Walker isn't the number 1 overall pick. Indeed, he was. You had over 6 wide receivers are drafted in the first round. If number is exactly 6, prop is a push. I don't know why we even gave that to you. That felt like a bit of a cop-out, but we did. We were feeling generous, and it ended up being 6 and a push.
6 out of the first 18. And then the Packers, who we didn't mention, traded up for Christian Watson at 35. So that was the next closest. And
Right.
supposedly there was some talk. They had some talk of maybe trying to trade back into the first round. Didn't happen. They gave up 2 twos, by the way, for Christian Watson from North Dakota State. A lot of pressure on that young man.
Well, he's also entering a pretty nice spot too.
Yeah,
Aaron
absolutely.
Rodgers, who probably also made a call himself to Goody and company, said, if you don't draft a wide receiver next, I will literally retire.
Oh, thank God he did.
I will make your summer so miserable you have no idea. Give me Christian Watson. You also had Titans draft Desmond Ritter. Ooh, a double here, as we know. Titans draft Desmond Ritter. Dan and Mark win that one because they did not. They drafted Malik Willis in the first round. As we know, only one quarterback went in the first round, and it was Kenny Pickett.
You didn't take me on it, though.
Didn't
Coulda
take
had
you on
an
that
extra
one. We only
sandwich.
picked up 2 on you. So 4 and 5. And then finally, the Zeus are 8-2. And Greggy.
Wow.
An 8-2. Does that move me into the overall first place? I don't know. It might be right there. We're pretty close. I had Jets draft Sauce Gardner in the top 10. They took him 4 overall, so nailed that one. Had Bills draft a defensive player in first round. Just got Marc on that one. I also had Chiefs trade up within the first round to draft a wide receiver. I lost 2 sandwiches there. And then I cleaned up on my guesses against you guys. So 8-2. Woo. That will play.
I don't know if he's updated the overall standing, so it's hard for me to say. But yeah, you might have passed me here. We're neck and neck. After over 400 props, we are within like a game or two, Dan.
Dan, it's Saturday night. I would roll into an LA area club, a 21 and over club, and just start telling people that you went 8-2 in the sandwich contest during the draft here. I think you're going to be mowing people down. They're going to be turning into liquid.
I'm just going to, and this is always a fun thing. I've done it before. I'm just going to pull out a few past props at will. Kevin Danger Hanzus, my brother, was on the show once and said Tony Romo plays for the Bengals in 2017. Anybody remember that?
No, but I like that.
Let's find an old, let's see. NFL Game Pass length of Buccaneers versus Rams, 43 minutes.
It's an odd one.
Happening.
Let's see. J.J. Watt will share a pic of his younger self and brother with a cheesy caption when TJ is drafted. And he did. That's green highlighted. So apparently
there was some good brother drafting, though. Cameron Hayward's brother got drafted by the Steelers, who now have 4 sets of brothers on the Steelers. The Watts, the Edmondses, the Davises, who I wasn't aware of, and the Haywards. It's pretty.
I like
wild.
that. It's heartwarming. It also feels like the start of like a religious cult in Pittsburgh. I'm not sure what the game plan there is.
And here's one more, because this just goes to show you what a roller coaster Browns fandom has been in the last 10 years or so. The Cleveland Cavs will win 3 games before the Browns, and of course, NBA seasons start in November. So, the Cavs did win that one.
Is that the year the Browns won like 0-16?
This looks like it's 2015.
I know we're past everything, but it did occur to me there was, we were in the national news. At least, well, I guess really just one of us was in the national news this last week. So it does remind me of another winner from this last week. I think Skip Bayless was kind of a winner. Ricky, let's hear it.
Now, according to one mock draft from NFL Network, it's, quote, a lock that Baker heads to the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for a 4th rounder. Shannon, you've been predicting Baker would be traded right around the draft. So jump in here. What do you think happens now?
Well, I think that's going to be the time, but I'll believe it when I see it, Skip. But it's not a bad deal.
I don't trust any of this. I don't, and I'm not discounting the NFL Network report. I don't believe any of it.
Okay.
And I also think
Skip,
this league is,
truth teller.
of all the leagues, the worst victim of what I call sheep think.
Oh,
God. What a nightmare. First of all, I put no time element on that, so I may have my day. I may have my revenge.
That's why Skip Bayless is making more than your starting tight end, insights like that.
Mark, I have a lot of faith in you. And like I said, you are a major part of the brand as we're trying to get off the ground in this mock draft game. 5 of 32, and then a very public dust up with Skip Bayless, in which Skip prevails. The brand took a hit in 2022. It doesn't mean it's over, but it took a hit.
It's close to over. I mean, I'm not sure that there's a whole lot of, if you're a fan base, there's not a whole lot of optimism to go forward, especially when, our producer doubled my correct hits. And apparently last year had 11, which went, undersold media wise. So what am I doing here? Like it's a fair question.
You know that, same thing with Gravedigger in his personal life. Like he's got a little sneaky bravado, and then it just boop, there it is. Actually, what about 11 last year? Or
you can sense that.
Anytime we ask him about, the thing that we're not allowed to talk about, he always gives a little extra info that shows that things are cooking with grease.
Right, that he's actually proud of it. It's like, oh no, don't bring up this story of this torrid affair of this hot married
babe.
woman. Yeah, don't bring that up.
Too sensitive.
The older hot babe that loves me more than her husband. Don't want to talk about that.
Not on this show.
Justin, are you sure you want to take over for Ricky, knowing that just the scrutiny of everything in your life it's going to just double down, and then you got the fan base that's going to want to know more and more and more?
You're going to be like Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder, getting too much attention.
All right.
Speaking of which, we're sorry, Falcons fans. We didn't even. You had a great draft too. We didn't even talk about Ridder going there. I think that was nice. It was a nice pick. Nice pick by them.
All right. You know what else was a nice pick? Ricky Hollywood as our producer. 5 years.
Wow.
How many shows, Ricky? Just make up a number.
I feel like 2,084.
2,084 shows over 5 years.
Yeah.
So many great memories.
Dan, literally was talking about it with Jet last night. We went to London for the first time and went multiple times. We have gone through losses together. We got around the NFL on the network show, from Pick'em and to giving you guys, and that has nothing to do with me. It has all to do with your guys' talent, and that speaks for itself. But just where we all have been, and especially me in the last 5 years, alongside you guys, is when I was actually sitting down and looking over everything that we have accomplished together. It has been nothing short of amazing, and I am so proud of you that I can't even put it into words, and it has been such a blessing just to be in remotely near your orbit.
Oh, well, Ricky, we're the lucky ones. You added such an interesting element to the show, and a new voice, and really proud of you, how you opened up about your personal life and how that helps other people be themselves and not be afraid to show that side of things, and in addition to being funny and talented. And we know you're going to soar going forward without us. So we wanted to share with you a little thing that Sean Kelly helped put together behind the scenes of our time with you. Ricky Hollywood, Gravedigger, hit it.
Okay, you watched The Bachelor, but that wasn't enough. Now you need The Bachelor cast off with Cousin Oliver.
Wes, get off your high horse. I just finished a big book, and I played jazz yesterday. I listened to jazz while I played cards, and if I want to literally relax with a glass of wine and watch some stupid TV, you can shove it right where the sun don't shine.
I love it.
Wes been rendered silent.
I mean, what are you going to do? You can't help people who won't help themselves.
Oh, my God. I'll destroy you.
Hey guys, Ricky Hollywood here, and
Marc Sessler.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do a competition called the Chubby Bunny competition, where we shove marshmallows in our mouth, but instead of saying Chubby Bunny, we are going to say players that are in championship weekend that are playing. Okay?
No, it's getting serious.
Getting full. Ryan Tannehill. What?
Okay.
What did you just say? Justin?
In a room with Justin Timberlake, one question, moderate clout. Are you willing to work?
I will do anything.
I'm really thankful to you guys for giving me this, sense of responsibility. Right before the show, Gregg asked me to drag in a refrigerator for him. So things are going well over here.
We're live, baby.
Yeah.
We have 169 nice watching us right now.
Say hi, Ricky Hollywood.
Hi, Ricky Hollywood.
So, do you feel bad that you're in a Jets jersey, or are you excited?
I'm excited.
You are, and you just because you love your daddy so much, you just want his team to win? Yeah? Are the Jets your favorite team? Really? Why?
So why are the Jets your favorite?
Because they play good.
He obviously isn't watching many games. All right, say bye.
good.
Say bye, Ricky Hollywood.
Bye, Ricky Hollywood.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, well, that was the insight that I felt that we were missing.
But before we do that, give me your best Chewbacca
Oh,
impersonation,
oh.
Mark. I need it. No, that was terrible.
I don't do it. I don't
roll
have
the
a
tongue.
Chewbacca impression.
The Recrimination compilation album that was 2008.
Master.
Man of the Woods 2018.
2006, you fool!
Future Sex Love Sounds 2006. 2020 Experience 2013.
Go. Hey.
Why did I wink and say that?
I don't know. There was a wink beneath those glasses.
The Gouda gun right here.
This whole month is about me.
The fact that we're even doing this episode makes me I feel teary right now. It's like I am so supported by you guys, and we are such an incredible family when my family is so far away, and there isn't anything that I wouldn't do for you guys, and it's clear that you guys feel the same way because we're all here, and I love you guys very much.
Oh, Ricky. When Ricky gets emotional, it makes me get emotional, and I love her so much.
There you go. That was from, of course, the Pride cast that we did last June. And that's just another, Erica always had such great ideas and kind of opened our minds to doing things differently. And us sitting in the middle of West Hollywood celebrating the kickoff of Pride Month, that kind of says it all as well. We love you, Erica.
Love you, Erica.
Love you guys.
Yeah, like our show will never be the same without you. So I hope, if anything, you agree to come back for maybe a lot of money to guest once in a while. At least show your face. We must see it.
I was not expecting that.
We love it.
And you should know Sean Kelly put that together and put a lot of work into it. He's so great behind the scenes. And now I'm going to ask him to do one more thing starting immediately after this show is get out the chisels, because Erica Tamposi is going up on producer Mount Rushmore with special circumstance. I mean, what does she get? Which one do we want to give her?
Bitch, I've been up there.
She's in the process of removing the other faces.
Yeah, we gotta let Sean know about it soon. It's a long drive to South Dakota, where he's going to be.
His summer is going to be. His summer is suddenly booked. But you're right, Ricky. We knew that you were a Mount Rushmore producer within weeks of you starting with us, and we've been very lucky to have you, and can't wait to see what happens next in your career, because you're talented as hell and also a great person. So thank you for all the years of service to this podcast. And like Marc said, it's not going to be the same without you, but we have so many years of memories that we share together. And if Wes was here, he would say something very kind as well. And you were with us during that extremely difficult period in the show's history. And that's a bond that also will hold us together forever. And you were awesome during that time as well. So
I got some awesome texts from some of the Wessling brothers, and it's been, I'm scared of this time right now. I really am. Without you guys like right next to me, it's a lot. But without your support, like everyone involved, like I just feel, supported, I guess.
We're still next to you.
Still next to you, still support you, and can't wait to see where
We're
you go next.
We're like just downstairs. Just walk by the Chris Wesseling podcast studio.
All right, that wraps up, the end of an era. Wraps up this show, wraps up our draft coverage. Thank you. Obviously, we rolled out a big week of shows this week. We were in 2 different major American cities in the last 2 episodes. We hope you enjoyed the content. We're going to keep rolling. Like I said, coming up now, Justin's going to step in and for Ricky behind the glass, and we're excited for Justin because we know he's going to do great in the job. So that's a new era for the show. We're going to do our Around the AFC and NFC next week with some special guests. So make sure you tune in for that. And signing off one more time for Quiet Storm, the old boss, And yes, Ricky Hollywood, we love you, girl. Come back and visit. Promise.
Always.
All right, great. We love you, Ricky. Until Tuesday, heed the call.
You guys for doing that to me.
That was good.
Oh, that was great. That was a lot of great memories.